just a simple wonder.
All right, so we're here to talk about this Shadowcrest dragon carved katana style saber for David of the Saber Museum. But up top, you heard me demo the Ronin sound font. Since this is a katana style, I figured that's the most fitting. And also it was a font that has been provided on some installs I've done for David in the past. So let's hop down to the table. Let's talk about the electronics. Let's talk about the chassis design. Let's talk about what went on with the concepts around the chassis design itself, and then some of the components. We'll hop back out. I'll show a few blade styles. This is, again, a returning customer, and so this is going to be the exact same operations as the last two sabers I've done, and then a few other sabers I've done in the past will have similar presets, similar blade styles, so it's gonna just be a walk in the park for him. So let's do that, and we'll wrap it up. Thanks for checking it out. All right, we're here to talk about this Shadowcrest carved hilt that was sent to me by David of the Saber Museum. This features a dragon carved theme and on both sides. So interesting accent work with powder coating, two-tone powder coating. There's this brownish, this dark bronzish color, and this goldish color, and then the exposed and probably weathered, get this to focus, aluminum. And then the Suba is highly detailed. Now, a note to David, this is not only fragile, but there's really sharp point. I don't know if I can get this to show up on camera. There's a few sharp edges. So I will take care to package it well, but as you wield it, just know that this Suba is very fragile and can bend. I doubt you'll be doing any kind of dueling. So we can see down in the emitter there, we've got our Shadowfoil Neopixel emitter with what's already showing off there is a blood red PLA, sparkle PLA. Now I have subdivided the emitter into 3 rings. I did this recently on an install, and so we carried that over. I'll show that lit up here in a second. The pommel screws in on either side. So I've taken those off temporarily. And then we have a brass KR 12mm dual switch. So this is a fully removable with our, I don't know if I can get the light all the way down there, removable Shtok rotary PCB. And so on the chassis here, we've got our rotary PCB. Now David mentioned that this and another is kind of in line with the New Year, the Chinese New Year, which is Year of the Dragon this year. So I did some emboss work and some just traditional design work that you often see. And so I think this is the, I don't know if it's called kanji or whatever, but I think this is the kanji for dragon. And then we've got our dragon there. So again, this is a new PLA that I got the idea from, I think Herbert Wong over at Stardust Sabers mentioned it. It's kind of hard to tell here on camera, but it looks pretty cool in person. Although I did kind of end up muting it after doing a rub and buff and then clear coating the rub and buff. But it's like a slight sparkle PLA. So this red and gold theme is very common in Chinese New Year iconography. So we have a 2020 Neopixel accent strip, and then I created a resin printed and painted marble crystal chamber. And so David had sent me a Noah Drew marble, and you can sort of see a synthetic opal sphere in the center of there. So depending on what color and what accent lighting shows up in the crystal, that will do different things. It's very cool in person. So there's a bit of a, let's see if we can just get this to show up on camera, bit of a red hue with the smoky swirl around it. And of course that synthetic opal. I can't really get it to focus without putting my hand in the way, so it's kind of hard to tell. We'll see that when it lights up. But I resin printed this crystal chamber, and so we have two 4mm brass rods and two 4mm copper rods and two 1.5mm brass rods that connect these two parts of the saber together. So it's very solidly built. We got our Proffie V3, and then obviously if we're gonna wanna show off the marble and switch fonts, we got our onboard tactiles. On the right here is our main, and on the left is our aux. Config is on the SD card. And then we've got our accent pixel strip here. There's a Shtok Neopixel accent ring with 15 Neopixels underneath here. So a lot of these will have turbine type effects to really kind of accentuate the circular nature. And then got an 18650 battery here with the positive terminal clearly indicated. This is a new set of spring tabs I'm using out. I think this is, again, something that Herbert Wong at Stardust Sabers mentions that he uses. So we have a high amp kill switch and a KR 25mm bass speaker with a little printed offset ring so that when we're up against the pommel, we don't ground out the speaker and cause any distortion. So when we're ready, we can hit the kill switch. Oh, we must be on the battery level indicator. There's no boot sound. So on the accent pixels on the strip on the back, I've got it going from green to red. So it's green right now, which means it's got a good charge. So if we hit aux, we'll go to the first sound font.
Just a simple wonder.
Because this is a katana style hilt, I did the Ronin from the Star Wars Vision as the first two sound fonts. So you got the Bandit Leader next. And so now we can see that lighting up. Now it's red, and the marble itself is kind of red, so the opal isn't as visible. But we can hit the power switch on. And so as it sparks up white there at the beginning, you saw that synthetic opal. Again, this is a Noah Drew marble, so it looks really cool. And then on the back side, we've got our accent strip. Twist on and twist off. So here's the accent strip in the off state. And then in the on state, it does that. So each preset has a different effect and a different color. For the most part, the emitter and the strip will sort of be the same color to match whatever font we're on. But when we're ready, we can just put that in the hilt. And so what we'll do with the pommel is obviously we line up the ridges, and then we just hold it with our finger so that that set screw, and I'm just going to put one in because that's all it takes to demo this. Set that set screw, and that will keep our pommel in place. By the way, I'm not providing this. This is mine. It is the same common size as like all the 1032 set screws that Starfall uses, so I know you've got these on hand. I will mention that the blade retention screw is on this side, and that is an 832 retention screw, so it's just a little bit smaller than this. So you will need two different size Allen keys for the pommel retention and then the blade retention. But up in the top, we can see the three different rings that I've subdivided light up at different times. And then the KR duo switch, top is main, bottom is aux. So if we hit main, we'll light the saber up. And so this is gonna do its own thing, and then the blade is gonna do something separate. But Plenty of volume coming out here, and you'll hear maybe just a little bit vent out this carved portion here. The chassis does press up directly against the pommel, but there might be a little bit of bleed here. But it sounds pretty good coming out this hole. You've got a good distance of resonance chamber here. So I don't have the volume set enormously high, but good enough that we're not causing any weird false clashes and stuff like that. So again, power, aux, clashes. You can see that here. On some of these accents will light up, some of them won't. They'll just do the animation. This one does. And then again, you'll get a little shine through on this side, even when the blade's in. And yeah, you can't see it, but there's a little bit one on that as well. So this takes a 1-inch diameter Neopixel blade. I will say this is a tight fit for my blade, so I'm going to demo this with a 32-inch, even though it's programmed for 36, because when I was trying to put my blade in there, it was getting stuck and without any set screws or anything like that. And I sanded it down a little bit, but even then it was very tight. I have a couple other blades that didn't have that problem, so just a heads up, David, you may have to do some sanding on your blade to make sure that it doesn't get stuck. But that being said, it's not a big deal. So, same operations as before with this Proffie setup. Just know that the upper chamber here is a press fit. The switch is kind of what's holding it in place. There's a little bit of adhesive there, but in the long run, once the blade is in and the pommel is on, you're essentially squeezing everything together so we're good and tight. But when we want to take the pommel back off, we'll just do that. Do be mindful to do this over a table so that the chassis doesn't fly out, because as I do this, you'll watch the pommel, if I can get my hands out of the way here, do this with my left hand here, you'll see the pommel spring off as those pogo pins disengage. So you can see it just jumped out there. And then just hang on to these screws. There's 2 of them, right here and right here. And then, yeah, so there's our chassis. So we'll just go through a couple presets here so we can watch the animations and listen. It's the same general set that I provided with the Harpy and Medusa. So we'll hit this again. So we've got Ronin and then Bandit Leader, and then I want to say Mother Talzin. So these were ones I did on the Harpy and Medusa, since they're kind of out of Star Wars universe here. And this hilt is kind of its own thing. But if we want to, we can kind of look up close here to see what Dale did. This is, again, carved by Dale Snyderhand over at Shadowcrest Designs. Very intricate work here. Really cool. And then especially the 2-tone kind of dark brown bronze and gold leaf highlights. So that's this side. And then this side, the retention. So there's your blade retention screw again. And you can just see all the cool work that went into this. So yeah. Again, we'll show off a couple more accents. So I did just leave this all as one blade in the config to not do anything super complex, just because it's, doesn't need to be too over the top. But, and then we get into a lot of Vader font here. A lot more Canon styles after this.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Just because David likes all of the Canon colors on his sabers. And just like the last set, I also provided a couple, not necessarily Canon, but extended universe colors. So there is a orange blade for like the Ahsoka series, and then there's a magenta for like the video games for like Darth Revan. Although I don't think it's a Darth Revan font. So there you can see that synthetic opal there in the center on this particular one. And you can see down there the rotary accent swimming in color there. This one has a metal forge heat up, and then there we go. We got that rotary. Looks like a party. Blaster blocks. Flashes. So very cool. Again, that's a Noah Drew marble with a synthetic opal in the center.
I'm quite on Juno.
So when we're done, we can hit the kill switch. I've set the chassis to time off at 25 minutes, I believe. I'll have to double check that just so that you have plenty of time to photograph it. But if it does go to sleep, then it will just take a button press to wake it back up, which you can do with these onboard tactiles. So that's pretty good. And then other than that, that pretty much covers it. All right, so we showed off the chassis. We talked about a few considerations with the fragility of this particular hilt. We also talked about the fact that I'm demoing this with a 32-inch, 1-inch diameter Neopixel blade because the emitter itself has a little tight for some of my other blades. Up top, though, you saw me show some tip effects still show on this size of a saber, so it'll carry over to the other size as well. But David, if you have any questions, let me know. That being said, let's show off a few of the presets in terms of blade styles and whatnot. So up top, I demoed the Ronin blade style. It's going to be similar to the Bandit because I did provide both those fonts. Those come from Kyberphonic in the Visions pack of sound fonts. I believe I've provided those to David in the past on a Starfall install that had a similar katana theme. So that being said, most of the sound fonts on this one are the very same that I did on the last set of Shadowcrest sabers that I did for him. There was a saber staff with the Medusa and Harpy theme. And so a lot of these fonts come from that setup. So it'll have a lot of out of universe up top, but a lot of canon styles towards the middle section, and then a couple extended universe fonts towards the end, just so we can have some extra blade style colors and whatnot. So that being said, the next one should be Mother Towson.
Who is this Mother Towson?
So again, this is a KR duo switch. Up top is your main, bottom is your aux. Hit aux in the off state to move forward, point the hilt down, and hit aux to move backwards. You can do a couple of other button presses to rotate through if you want to do that. But this, instead of doing the Clone Wars blade style that I think I provided previously, because I don't believe the Ahsoka series had quite yet had Morgan Elsbeth's character with the blade of Towson. So this now has Brian Connor's blade style. So you see a lot of dark spots on the blade. This may not show up great on camera because I got this lighting set up for ambience, but you can see dark spots, and then it goes with these kind of blue and green hues. So it's like a smoke blade, right? And then it goes out to so that, again, that's Brian Connor's blade style. So that's just something different because, again, this is a sort of an out of universe hilt. I wanted to provide some out of universe stuff, but now we're going to get into some kind of in universe sound fonts with the Darth Vader. So again, I think I provided this on the last set, but so this is just going to be Vader sound font and then a mostly canon rotoscope red blade. And I'm forgetting which particular version this is. I think this is. I'm not going to lie, so I don't even remember which one I provided. It's just one of the Vader fonts, but very standard look, very subtle rotoscope style. If you can see that against my palm or my T-shirt, maybe very subtle but red. And then if you wanted to change the blade color, you could hold aux and tap power, which I accidentally just did with a single finger.
Navajo white.
And then you can hear that's the Ronin voice pack.
Light cyan. Moccasin.
To accept the color, you'd hit power. I'm just going to hit revert.
Revert.
because it's Vader, you want red. But yeah, so for this, if you want to do the designated soundtrack, make sure the blade's pointed up, hold power for a second. And that's true whether the blade is on or off. So we got the Imperial March. Hold it again to turn it off. If you hold the blade horizontal, you'll get into track player mode so that you can get to all of the extra tracks I provided in the common folder. Again, there's a plethora of them for you, David. So you just, when the saber's off, hold the hilt horizontal, press power for a second. You'll get a little chime. You rotate to the left, you'll go backwards, I believe, in fonts. And I put a lot on here, so it's a little slow to read them. And of course, this next one's very quiet. Rotate to the left to go back, rotate right to go forward. Press power to, I think, just play that one track. I sent you the button command, so now we can move the saber around and not change tracks. But there's a couple different button combinations to play sequential tracks, random tracks, just the one track, etc. So that being said, you can learn about how to do that on the printout and the instructions I emailed you earlier. So that is track player mode. When the saber is on, again, the only way to play a track is with the blade up. If you do it any other orientation, you're going to do force effect. So we'll do that real quick. And then I've animated most of the blade styles to be unstable for as long as the sound is playing, so it doesn't go too long. But if there are quotes for that particular preset and you want to switch to quote player mode, point the hilt down, hold the power for a second. And this one doesn't have any, otherwise we would have heard it do it right there. So I gotta make sure I'm actually pressing the button. Let's go to the next one, which I think is Obi-Wan. Maybe quite.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So, standard blue, rotoscope. I know for a fact this one has weird quotes, so we're gonna bypass that.
Master Windu!
So, okay, so here we go, Mace Windu. I know he's got quotes. So, power to turn it on, obviously, purplish blade, pointing up. I'll start a track, the designated track, otherwise turn it off. Hold it to the force. But if we want to switch to quotes, point it down.
He has control of the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alone.
And you'll notice it won't play that animation now for quotes.
May the force be with you. Remember, Obi-Wan, if the prophecy is true, your apprentice is the only one who can bring the force back into balance.
You can also engage this force player when the blade is off if you're not horizontal or upright, so if you're kind of at an angle. So just if that happens in the off state and you thought you were going to play a track and you play a force, it's because you either need to be upright or sideways. So it's happened to me. It's something new in OS 7 I didn't realize until recently. But to switch back to force player mode, point the hilt down. Now we got that unstable style and that sound effect. All right, so a couple other canon fonts.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Qui-Gon, so here's our standard green, so we don't have that weird Blade of Talzin kind of green.
Kylo Ren.
Another unstable style for Kylo. Pretty sure that one has quotes as well. Here we have Rey, so Kylo and Rey back. This happens to be yellow, even though I think the sound font is kind of when she had the blue blade. So we just needed a yellow color, so it's yellow, which is, her hilt at the end, but probably not the sound font for that one. Actually, don't know.
Hello, Master. It's been a while.
So here's Ahsoka Tano for the Clone Wars, but it has the white blade style from like the Rebels era and the Show era. So just kind of a light white. So it may look a little blue in person, but it's kind of intended to be a silverish color so that it doesn't, if it's bright white, then you won't see some of the animations like this. Right? And then also it won't drain your battery as fast.
Months of attacking Imperial targets and Vader sends a boy to fight me?
now we're in the extended universe type of stuff I was talking about. So because I did want to provide something new for the orange blade style, this is just, forgetting which sound font this is, but I think it's from the video games. So we've got an orange, red, or dark orange, I forget which one. This probably looks like the red one does on camera, but it'll be orange in person. I think it's Ramcoda, so probably not in line with whatever blade. And so this one I provided also on some previous installs, and this is a magenta to sort of be like Darth Revan, even though I'm not sure the sound font is for Darth Revan. It's from Syndicate Custom Relics. Oops.
Battery level.
And then our last preset now is our battery level indicator. And again, with a 36-inch blade, and it's fully charged, it'll be all the way at the tip. So this is probably more towards an 80-90% range. Again, any preset that you're on, you can hit aux and tap power.
Battery level 78%.
To get a percentage readout. And then the reverse hold power tap aux. If you want to jump into the volume level.
Enter volume
Menu, there we go.
Maximum volume.
So I just like it at the maximum volume, but if you rotate to the left, you'll get clicks.
Minimum volume.
And I don't know if you heard that, but he said minimum volume.
Maximum volume.
Again,
Exit volume menu.
this is the Ronin voice pack from Brian Connor. And so, yeah, that covers it.
Simple wonder.
All of the rest of the functions you're used to are the same with regard to twist on and twist off, thrust on, and to turn it on as well, although I didn't quite actually do it there. And again, those get you into battle mode. So battle mode, you don't have to press a button, et cetera, et cetera. All of the printouts I've provided you in the past are applicable to this hilt as well. I'm going to be sending you a combination of 3 recent installs. So I'm probably just going to have one printout because it's the same as the one I've been providing over and over. This is operating system 7.13. So it should be the same as the last 2 I did. There's not much functionality changes. There's just like bug fixes here and there between Sabers I may have given you in the past. So nothing to worry about in terms of how the Saber operates. It's all the same. But yeah, any questions, let me know, and I hope you enjoy, and thanks again for your patronage.